Today everyone, I'm going to show you how to make this, clear ice. Let's do it. Welcome back to the Coffee Cocktail channel with me, Dan Fellows. This channel is all about coffee and cocktails, and this today is a bit different. Today I'm going to be showing you a technique to make this, which is beautiful, clear ice. So I really do think this adds values to any cocktail served with ice. It just makes the whole thing look more delicious. It's kind of hypnotic. It also serves a functional purpose in that using big clear ice blocks, we get a slower dilution. So you can enjoy your drinks for longer with less dilution, and I think that makes them very delicious. So the technique's really simple, but you're going to need a few things. So let's run through those now. So the first thing you're going to need, which is critical, is a cool box, or an esky if you're Australian. And the reason that this works is that we're using the cool box to insulate the water that's freezing. And we get a top-down freezing. So because these are insulated walls, it actually does a good job of keeping the liquid underneath not frozen. And then because we're freezing from the top down, all of the impurities remain at the bottom in the water, which we're then going to strain off, and we'll get our clear kind of glass-like ice sheet. So you could technically do this with any cool box. This is a Coleman 5QT 4.7 litre, which is a really nice size. And it's really important you're able to remove the lid or freeze it without the lid on, because we want that directional freezing, top down. If you have the lid on, it's going to freeze from all sides equally. And actually we want the directional downward freezing. So make sure you can remove the lid. If you want to have a cool box for other things, you can also get 6 beers in here. So fun fact, and it's been done. Keeps them nice and cold. So that's our first thing, a cool box. Number 2, you're going to want a hammer, like so. Doesn't have to be pretty, it's going to do a functional job, but it does need to be clean. So make sure you clean it first. Number 3, you want a serrated knife or a bread knife, and use a cheap one. This can kind of blunt the little teeth on a serrated knife. So don't bother using an expensive one, just use a cheap one, and it might need replacing every few months, every few years, whatever. But serrated knife. Number 4, good quality chopping board. Number 5, you want a towel, which you can lay down underneath because we're going to get a little bit of mess. And then number 6, 2 things you'd probably already have would be a freezer, which I've got over there, which I'll show you later. And number 7 is a sink. So you might not know this is a sink, because we're going to be working on the draining board because it does get pretty messy. So when you've got those 7 things, the most important thing you can do is wash your hands. Really important. Although the ice does a good job of kind of self-protecting itself by being so cold, we are going to be handling it. So you want to make sure you're either wearing gloves or you have extremely clean hands. So now I've got all my things gathered, I've got nice clean hands. There is probably an 8th thing, which you might realize you already need, which is water. So the first step, number 1, is to fill up your cool box with water. So when it comes to your water, a quick note on this, you want to use the same water you'd be happy drinking, because obviously you're going to get maybe 20 to 30% of any cocktail is going to be the dilution from the water. So you want it to be clean, you want it to be odorless, you want it to be potable, you want it to be something you'd be happy drinking because you're going to be drinking a fair amount of it. The water you drink is totally fine. I don't advocate buying bottled water for this because I think it's quite wasteful. But if you have filtered water, fantastic. Whatever you drink is good. So when it comes to how much water you want to add, you want it to be about 2-3 centimeters from the top, about 1 inch from the top. And that's going to be perfect because when we put this in the freezer, as long as your freezer's at -18, there or thereabouts, we know by freezing this for 24 to 30 hours, we're going to get a good amount of the water frozen, but not all of the water. And that's really important. So with our top-down freezing, the very pure water will freeze first, and then at the bottom we'll have a little bit of water which is frozen into a sort of bubble, and this is where all the kind of impurities, all the things you don't want in your ice lie. If you freeze it the whole way through, it'll be a little bit bubbly, it'll look imperfect, and doing it this way we can just break off that bubble, chip away any leftover ice, get rid of the water, and you have beautiful clear ice. So first thing we're going to do is put this straight in the freezer, and then we're going to come back in 24 to 30 hours. And then in true "here's one I made earlier" fashion, let's go to the freezer and get our ice. So we're going to be left with your frozen ice, and then what you want to do is tip this out onto a chopping board or ideally onto a draining rack, and then we're just going to leave it for around about 20 minutes or so. So pop it out like so. Have to just let the air kind of come in the sides And in time, with a little bit of encouragement, we're going to have our nice clear ice. So now we've got our clear ice. We do have a little bit here, which I'm just going to break through. So just take your knife, and by doing this, there's just a little bit of water that hasn't quite frozen, which is exactly what we want. That's where all the impurities are. So just break through your surface. Gets quite messy, but that's fine. And then, again, with a little bit of encouragement, this seems quite brutal, but we're going to empty out this water. And that's all the kind of impurities, so we're left with beautiful, pure, perfect ice for cocktails. So we're going to leave this for a little while just to kind of temper, and then we'll come back to it in a second. So 20 minutes later, we have this bad boy. So we need with this now to clean it up, turn it into our beautiful sheet of ice that then we can carve into whatever shapes we want. So underneath where the little bubble was, which you can see here, we're just going to take this edge off. So this will get quite messy. So I'm just going to break this off in little pieces. Quite satisfying, to be honest. There's also quite a lot of electrical items which I don't really want to destroy, but there we go. They're weather sealed. So I'm going to clean up this edge. Take this off with our serrated knife. And then the top edge, we've just got a little bit of impurity, so we can just carve this off as well. Just shave any impurities off. And you can now see why we've got the tea towel. So we're getting pretty damn good. Same on this side edge, just a couple of little bubbles. And I'll carry on cleaning up these edges just until we get a beautiful, complete clear ice block. And then if you have any sort of scored edges like this, which are a little bit serrated-y, I guess, if you know what I mean by that, we can then just run this under the tap to kind of smooth off the edges. I should clean up. So I've done a bit of surgery on this ice, kind of shaved the edges, taken off any impurities, and then just run it under the tap just to kind of smooth off any edges. And we're left with, ooh, beautiful, satisfying, clear ice, which you can see there. And I have washed my hands frequently in order to do this. So now we've got this, the next thing we can do is start working on it to shape it into whatever shape we want. So for this, you're just gonna need your serrated knife and our trusty hammer. And you need to think about what drinks you're making. So I'm gonna be making drinks in a rocks glass. I know they're gonna be about yay wide. So I'm gonna go 1 cut through the middle and then 3 cuts this way. We'll be left with a nice tall rectangular ice cube. So you want to kind of guide your knife where you want it to be. Just give yourself a little guideline that you're going to cut into. And you don't want to cut the ice like you'd cut a slice of bread. You just want to kind of score the edge on all 4 sides. And then we're going to let the knife do the work to kind of take it where it wants to go. So you want to go along the whole piece of ice until you've got a little bit of coverage and your knife goes under the whole way on one side. Then we're going to do the same on the top side, which is a little bit quicker. And obviously I can't stress enough, be careful with your fingers, keep small children away. My little boy's sleeping, fortunately. And then you want to do the same on this side, kind of set your guideline and just work the ice, yeah. And then now I've done 3 sides with a full sort of score. I want to go the 4th, and the 2 just do need to connect up to make sure you get an even break. And if you've done a good job, they will. If you're a little bit skew-if, hopefully it'll kind of come out in the wash and it'll be fine. So we've got our fully scored ice. Next thing you want to do, lay your serrated knife where you want the break to be. And if this goes well, it'll be magic. So tap all the way along. You can see little breaks starting to be made. And then a couple of firm knocks. Do the same on the other side to try and give yourself a cleanish break. And if it doesn't break perfectly, it's not the end of the world. You can always shape it as you want to. And there we have a cleanish, reasonable break. So I'm not stressed about this. I've got two beautiful logs of ice which I can work with. So this one we're going to come back to. I won't bore you with carving. I will leave it actually in the freezer for later. And then this, we're going to cut 4 beautiful ice cubes from. So I'm going to make one score in the middle to break it into 2. Again, going on all 4 edges. Carve where you want the break to be. Oops. You do get little slips like that, which are pretty tough to avoid. And then we're going to meet up all 4 edges. Again, just kind of work it. Like that. That was a good break. That's how it's supposed to go. And then we're just going to go 1 cut to give us our kind of ice cubes, which are going to be perfect in our rocks glasses. So, to recap, you want to fill up your esky cool box, whatever you want to call it, almost to the top. You want to freeze that for, in this size cool box, between 24 and 30 hours. That'll give you a really nice kind of level of freeze, nice and thick, without freezing the whole way through. If it freezes the whole way, don't worry about it. You can just carve off the impurities. It just makes for slightly harder work. And then you want to clean it up, make it into a nice sheet of kind of glass-like clear ice. Then you want to decide how you're going to carve it. Carve it like so. And then any little kind of sticky out edges, which you're not fully satisfied with, you can clean up and just kind of smooth over, either with your hand. A little bit of water can smooth bigger areas, but this is a beautiful ice cube. So this is fully tempered and ready to go. If you're keeping it in the freezer, like I will with this, you want to make sure you kind of temper your ice out of the freezer so that as soon as you pour liquid on it, it doesn't crack. So I'm going to put these in and I'm going to get my glass. And then, whereas we want to kind of temper our ice, we want to serve as quickly as we can into our nice frozen glass. So just going to scoot that to one side. Going to pop our beautiful, perfect, just about perfect sized ice into our rocks glass. And then I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to serve some of the beautiful Panamanian clarified coffee sour, which we made in the last video, which I'll link at the end. This is made using a geisha from Panama, rum, lime, coconut and cascara syrup, clarified with milk to give it that really nice clear kind of look, and it works perfectly with our clear ice. So a couple of little stirs. I'm going to do it with my finger. We're all friends here. And then that, my friends, is what a drink should look like, in my opinion. Really nice, crystal clear, barely even looks like there's ice in the glass. And if you didn't know how to do that, you do now. So I'm gonna have a sip. Cheers, my friends, and happy clear ice making. That's a terrible catchphrase. So if you're finding value in this kind of thing in the channel, make sure you subscribe. It really does make a difference. And stay tuned for lots more techniques, coffee cocktail recipes, and all sorts of fun stuff. So I'll see you soon. I'm gonna have more of this. Cheers. A feast for sore eyes. A sight for sore eyes. Is that even a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
Sight for sore eyes, or a sight for well eyes. Whatever. Cheers.